Y'all, I hate y'all missed that, but Steve was adjusting his lighting, and I started to go live with him doing this weird stretch. But anyway, saved him that one.
Yep. Yep. Well, I did not fall, so we're all good.
I thought you were going to. I was like, man, if he falls, I can't rewind. Oh, it's been a long day, guys. It's been a long day. What's up, Jack? Nepa, Keith, Chris, good day. Jack again. Miss Sharon back with us. Lisa Crowder. That's not a name that rings a bell. It looks familiar, but doesn't ring a bell. Jody. Brian, of course.
Of
E-
course.
yeah, E.T. Jody. Da, 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 da. Actually, Jody, no, you never emailed me. You gotta email me to do stuff like that. Because I gotta have more information. You probably wouldn't be able to burn it anyway if it's 25 millimeter tubes, because that's a lot of space.
Just got to get creative.
Yeah, ET says he got his eights are adjusted, perfect circles now.
Nice.
Yeah, those little concentric nuts will get you if you don't watch it. Uh, Hello from Chattanooga, Mr. Larry there. Dwayne, York, Pennsylvania. We still trying to fill in the box over there in Nevada. So anybody from Nevada, please join the map. Uh, James, Lower Alabama. OLA. Eastern Nebraska. Yeah, good crowd. Good crowd so far. Maybe a few more will show up. It's just now at 76. But if not, it's just more room for questions from the rest of you. Uh, no, I actually talked to Chris. I actually emailed with Sam, and yeah, I'm not going to go his route. I don't have the patience or the time or some of the skills needed to build up from scratch. I don't think I'm gonna have to get mine blacked in with somebody else.
It's yeah, it's definitely a process. I mean, I built this back when it was supposed to be a garage with a small shop section on it. It's now pretty much full, taken over by shop. But it was I took 1 week off to with some help to kind of get it started. I mean, I had the pad poured, but then it was up to me and some help. And within 1 week, three of us working like 12-hour days got it all framed up. Uh, and the framing inspection done. But it then took me another, I don't know, 2 months to finish it off. Working afternoons and weekends.
Yeah. Well, congratulations there, Evo Boris. Had finally made a live stream. Looks like coming from your side.
Good to have you here.
Chris Leaf from the UK, I'm guessing, or is that just UK?
I mean,
Maybe.
University of Kentucky could be a option, but I'm guessing UK,
Yeah, could be.
United Kingdom,
Afternoon from NZ. Okay. Well, I'm
New Zealand.
okay. All right. I was thinking state. I was like, it's not Nevada. Is that like on the Nevada Arizona line? Yeah. Minnesota Customs made it back. Oh, ooh. Soaking in rays from Florida, Titusville, Florida. We got quite a few people in Florida over the past few weeks. Must be all that cold weather down there. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys down south getting cold, and we're finally getting a bubble of warm air up here. Actually, there's just barely any snow left in my yard. It's been that warm, and we may hit 50 here this week. So,
Oh, there you go. Shout out for helping fix the Aitzer.
hey, happy I could jump in there and point you in a few directions. I try to check in on the Facebook group and such. Once a day. It was a pretty busy week, but glad I could give you a few things to look at.
Sasha checking in from Midland, Texas. Yeah, I think we have a few in Texas, but guys, there are links in the description of my video as well as Steve's. If you're not on the link, and especially if you're regular in the live, uh, just go ahead and drop a pin somewhere. so that we'll know exactly how many people we have in the area. Kind of like at the end of the month when I'm going to be in Georgia, it gives me an idea whether or not I even need to set something up, which I plan to do, so that I maybe have dinner with a couple of the guys from over in Georgia or whatever. So when we travel or go somewhere, it's a good gauge, and it also is just cool to look at. Face it, I mean, it's just neat to see the coverage of what just two guys in their shops talking can have, which is pretty awesome. Let's see, Gastonia, Tenaway. Okay, they're talking to each other. Northeast Louisiana. Been down there. Oh, Super Duty said he's in Wilmington, North Carolina for the moment. He likes to roam around a lot in that big semi-trailer looking motorhome he's got. Brian said he still got 6 inches over in Milwaukee. Y'all can have all that. We had like some frost for a little while. I sent a picture to Steve and he laughed at it. And it just, I mean, everybody around here went crazy because we had just like a little bit. There was no, I even went to the store to check. There was no milk or bread at the store. So,
Yes, it's cold out, so stock up on perishables.
yeah. I guess it's so that if it gets cold, I guess they'll keep. I don't know.
Well, it's got to be cold enough and stay cold. I'd be worried down there, but losing power in it, going bad.
That's why
Up here, we
I
just
always
go
try to
outside.
keep Spam around, but my wife doesn't like Spam because that stuff will survive. It'll survive for hundreds of years.
It's a delicacy of Hawaii, made in Minnesota.
But Mark says he pulled the trigger on the IKEA 70 watt. I have no experience with IKEA, so
So I'm going to be curious. I haven't looked closely. I know Atom Stack is coming out with their 70 watt, and Atom Stack and IKEA are allegedly one and the same. IKEA is supposed to be what do they say, the premier, the high end brand of Atom Stack. As seen in most of their things are fairly similar. So I'm curious. I haven't looked too deep to see the differences between what they're advertising on their IKEA machine versus the Atom Stack. So
yeah. Well, I'm supposed to be getting the A70. They did tell me that because they're, I guess, the way they ship it or whatever, it's probably going to take an extended period to get here. But according to my Atom Stack contact, which is the same one that I got the X40 from, he's going to be sending that out. I hadn't got tracking numbers or anything. I don't think they generally give me tracking numbers until they get stateside. I think they wait because with Atom Stack, a lot of times they'll tell you it's sent, and then you won't get a tracking number for like 2 weeks. So
well, I've had that same thing with them where they send me the tracking number, but I think they have a label for UPS or FedEx in the States, but they're shipping it, in mass some other way, whether it's coming on a container or something else, because it'll be a couple weeks or longer before it actually the tracking number starts registering anything. So, but even 2 weeks though, that seems a little quick for a shipping container. So I don't know. Maybe they're just doing like a bulk, get a bunch of them together and send a pallet over on an airplane or something. But,
yeah, Brian says that spam stands for stuff posing as meat. Never really thought about it that way, but I guess it could. The stuff's good. You fry it in a cast iron skillet, throw a little mayonnaise on there, a couple pieces of white bread. Man, it's good. My wife does not appreciate it. She never makes me spam sandwiches. I grew up on those things. But let's see here. Patty Hart says hi from Limerick, Ireland. Okay, I don't know if we have any spots on Ireland, but you need to drop that on the map too when you get a chance. Has a question about what paint do you recommend for laser engraving photo frames? I'm assuming you're talking about if you want to use a paint. You're talking about doing the glass itself for picture frames. Is that kind of where you're trying to go with that?
you asking me?
No, I'm hoping Patty would respond. I'm watching I scrolled down to the bottom, but I just use Cermark. I know you're supposed to be doing like a side by side like comparison of the 3 main ones, but I don't know if you've got the round to doing that yet.
I finally got the last one in, but this week has been torturous for me. So unfortunately, I haven't made any progress on that. But yeah, I do have Surmark Brilliance and the OhmTech spray. And if I get a chance, I might throw in um, a couple other of the more, I don't know what you'd call them, like non-official marking spray options to kind of maybe do some testing and show some difference. But yeah, if it's glass, Cermark works well. If you're just going for a frosted look, really any dark paint that you can then wash off will work just as well to get the frosted look. So if you do it right, though, you can get Cermark to actually fuse and stay black. But you got to get that balance where it's causing the glass to kind of fracture while not burning away all the Cermark. So it's a little more of a playing with your speed and power to get that to work. So
Yep. Got a hobo with wood in the house over there.
hey,
He's probably making something right now as we speak. That's what I was doing when I watched him earlier. So I can't say anything. I was
I,
sitting
I
here
was
working on all that.
I was shop cleaning. I was tearing some things apart, making some room. So, but
Yep.
got a question here from
Uh-oh.
jumping right. I Gillette. Looking to buy something to run Lightburn. Would you recommend a laptop or mini PC if those were the choices? This day and age, unless you have a real fixed point where you're always going to run it and never move it, I would always go with a laptop over a mini PC. I mean, they're running so much of the similar technology at that scale that you're kind of just limiting yourself with the mini PC to a static environment versus the laptop. You can move around a little bit as needed. Now, if you have more of like a tower and some extra ports and, definitely setting up a dedicated station or you happen to come into a really good deal on one. I actually have a small mini HP PC running my SainSmart 6050 with a monitor mounted on the wall behind it. And that's really nice. Keeps everything out of the way, but that's kind of dedicated to that one. And I was able to pick up that mini PC for about $100. And I already had the monitor. So I wasn't going to run a laptop for that. But yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to have it on something a little more portable that you can just quickly move around. So I would go with a laptop, but really it's going to come down to maybe what you have besides. Like if you have a monitor, keyboard, and the space already, and you're just going to purchase a mini PC, yeah, go that route. You could probably save some money.
Yeah. Same. I kind of have the same feeling on that. I've currently on the CNC. I'm using a laptop, but I do have plans, like you said, to take. I've already got the monitor moved, and the plan is I'm going to mount me a mini PC. I'm just going to make me a little stowaway mounting position under the table so that it's out of the way, and have a mouse and keyboard. I've already got the Bluetooth keyboard with the touchpad, so I can use it with the mini PC and then just like basically have a place to stow away the keyboard. I've even thought about just CNCing myself a mount to where I can put the keyboard, basically have it on a swing
Yeah,
pedestal. That way I
yeah,
got touchpad and keyboard right there and the displays in the back. But right now I'm running a laptop and it works. I ran on a laptop out here in the shop for probably the first year. And then I converted over to using the tower, the big beast of a computer I got now.
yeah. As a matter of fact, at the college I work at, we only offer people laptops, and if they are requesting a desktop of any type, we question them on it as to what's the business or academic reason why you'd go with that versus a laptop. Because of this reason, laptops have made us so much more flexible in the past 4 years. So
They're a lot easier to service too from an IT standpoint because you just go grab it.
I mean they are, except for certain ones they're very hard to actually service inside of them. Whereas a
Oh
desktop
yeah.
gives you a little more flexibility. But
Oh, you
anyway,
mean you have to take them all the way apart just to change out the RAM,
yeah, well,
or break the
even
computer in
even just
half and
even just
put
pulling
a
a hard
keyboard?
drive out of some of those, you're doing feels like you're doing open heart surgery. So
Oh yeah, yeah. I hate the ones that you have to come in through the keyboard to get to the hard drive.
yeah,
Those terrible. Let's see. Hectic is asking, and I don't know. That's kind of that would depend. If you have asking if we have any partnerships with any big corporations. I don't. That would depend on your big, I guess. And what do you mean by partnerships? Because both of those words could be very skewed one way or the other. I know I work with certain companies as far as they send me equipment and I test it out, give them feedback. Sometimes they address the feedback. Some companies may not address it, but it's not. I wouldn't necessarily call it a partnership because they don't, they don't dictate what I do. That's kind of my rule. I don't take anything. If there's anything anywhere saying that I can't say what I want to say or do what I want to do, I don't. I don't get into that. That's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, a lot of the times when I'm dealing with companies, the term collaboration is what's used. Um,
Yes.
I mean, anytime a new company reaches out to me, I straight up tell them will not accept payment for. Um, I'm not someone doing media for you. I'm not going to be paid by you, but I'm willing to work with your products to do an overview of them, and then if they're good, continue to use them in some projects and such as things come up to kind of highlight them and such. But that I try to keep my channel more informational, educational, hobbyist. Um, so and that just kind of helps the conscious of I'm not, if they're paying me, then I feel like I'm on their payroll and they can dictate to me terms.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as that, there's obviously, if you look at our channels, there's some companies that we've worked a lot more with, and that's just from relationship building with them, and them trusting us to be fair and honest. Whereas some, it's kind of a one and done, whether it's they are a flash in the pan or for some reason they didn't like what we did with it. But yeah, there's a few, but outside of lasers, not so much. I try to keep it focused on fairly topical, because we both have had other places reach out to us about some
Yeah.
random stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it trash compactors and you name it. And early on, I mean, it was kind of flattering, and I'm like, hey, I'll try this. But then you learn it's if it gets too far outside your wheelhouse, it's just a hard connect, and it's more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah,
But
I feel awkward enough trying to find the balance between talking about lasers and being more of a salesman. I don't want to be
yeah,
salesy about it. And that's where if you get outside the wheelhouse there. I mean, I've had some that have been tangential. They're like, "Hey, we want to partner with you on our LED lights." And I'm like, "Well, I could put different lights in my shop, but I'm not making a video over it." So,
yeah. Well, hello, Kyle from Anniston, Alabama. I know exactly where that's at. See, I'm good on that geography. Chris says that he loves spam, but his wife's not impressed. He's kind of in the same boat I'm in. And Dale apparently likes smoked spam on his pellet grill. I've never really smoked any.
mm,
Might have to try that.
I'm
Uh,
curious if it would how well it would absorb some of that, being that it's pretty moist.
yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, there's an idea for this summer. I might have to get me a little smoker and put on the porch of the shack out here and smoke some spam.
at least smoke
Hectic
some pork chops
cuts.
tonight.
Hectic cuts is saying, like, do we get jobs from huge corporations that are already established on a national level? I am not equipped for that. I wouldn't know. Uh, I have companies like local companies that I have, not necessarily contracts, but that I do jobs for that, range anywhere from like my biggest company that I do work with, like on physical products here locally. On an average, I run about $13,000 revenue through their account. Now, I have expenses because I'm making stove covers, I'm making cutting boards and stuff like that. But that's the biggest customer I have. And to be honest with you, with everything I got going on with YouTube and chores around the house and kids and band practice and all of that, I can't do anymore. That's why I have folks like Klein that I spill over to, because until I can go full time in the shop, I can't take on any more customers. I've had other realtor agencies and stuff like that ask me, could I please help them and do the same thing for them? But I can't. I have to send it to somebody else. It's just too much, and trying to maintain a balance, which I'm terrible at anyway. because I get so focused on, especially with the YouTube. It's kind of YouTube's one of those things that at times you're driven by companies wanting you to try out things or people sending you questions or requesting certain topics, but at other times it's basically just whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm having fun with. And I stay in the shop and work a lot, and so sometimes I get on a roll to where I'm doing these different projects and stuff, making videos. And then it's fun. The recording of the videos is fun. It's the back end of editing it and trying not to make yourself look stupid, and taking out all your like where you can't spell or you can't count or whatever out of the video. So that's what takes so much time. In my opinion, is the back end, the editing.
Yeah, yeah. I get to the editing part, and I'm done with the project, and I have other things I go on, and I feel like I'm just halfway through the work. But yeah, I not so much with well, tangential to lasers. I have done some work, more development work, as also technical writing work with some larger companies. Some of that was kit production that I've done for some. I've actually in my past business of RC modeling stuff, I created some airplane stands, and I did have a few places want me to do kind of special runs of those. And so, that was more of trying to figure out, drop shipping a larger amount of them to them and making sure that it was, I was still comfortable with a profit. They had enough margin to make some on it and such. And including some of that was working with them on some of their products, then also needing to work with the factories in Vietnam. Never had to go there, thankfully, but the time differential of, hey, let's look over the CAD files here and let's make these changes, and then getting prototypes sent over. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing when you get into that larger scale corporation rather than dealing with smaller local companies. I mean, you had, even the stuff you've done for May kind of is in that middle ground there of when you start getting
Yeah.
50 to 100 units of things, you really start rethinking your workflow and such. But
Yeah, because Maymay's hit me before with 300 pieces within the span of a month. That was when I bought when I first bought my second machine, because I had the one machine, and I got Maymay called me and it's like, hey, that order of 100 you just did, I need 200 more. And I'm like, there's no way. With one machine, I got to doing the math, and I'm like, it'll take me months. And
yeah,
so I ordered the second machine, and I ordered it on Amazon, so I knew it would be here, like quick.
hmm
And I got it in the shop, got it set up, and I started running both machines. And when I saw the gains in how much I could do in a shorter period of time, that's when I got on the whole army of robots idea. Is because it was like, okay, I can either spend $10,000 on a CO2 machine, or I can just get 3 or 4 more of these and be doing multiple projects, and it's still working for me, and the machines keep getting faster and faster. So
hmm
Michael is asking about the titanium dioxide powder. I see. I'm the guy that I like to buy a can and spray it, and it works. I don't want to have to be trying to measure and mix and do a bunch of math. I just want to spray it and go. So
um,
I
I
stick with Sir Mark.
yeah, so I started going down the Norton white tile path, gosh, a year plus ago, playing around with that. And I think I may have ordered some, but then got distracted from that project, because there's both that, and that's something that's used, what I think, in soap quite a bit. And so you could, like you say, you can mix it in with some alcohol and kind of make your own spray that works well, rather than just worrying about the spray paint and such. So yeah, definitely something to play around with, but I haven't done any tests myself on that mixture. The other thing is the marking spray is what is it? Molybdenum is the
Don't
chemical
ask me.
that's in that stuff, and you can get that in a powdered form as well. So I think I had looked that up at one time to see if you can make kind of your own paste out of that. That's back when Cermark was, I think it was originally more in a brush on bottle kind of paste. I still have an old bottle of that as well from a while ago. But no, I haven't, because as you said, when you get going on a project, you just kind of want to spray it on and go and not play around with too much. But from the interest side of can it work and how maybe economical or reasonable would it be is more of where I would find the interest in. So
Yeah, well, I try to stay away from anything that I don't know for sure that I can burn. I try to avoid it. Occasionally, I'll have somebody that's a repeat customer that'll be like, "Hey, I really want to do this, this piece here, and it's something I got to have Cermark for. I want this look, and I got to have it." But for the most part, as far as the things that I sell or the things that I try to get behind, I stick with wood because I know wood works. I know what the settings are. I don't have to have any special sauce. A lot of people are like, "Oh, how do you get your engraves to go dark?" I've done enough wood. I've done enough experimentation. I can get black engraves. Matter of fact, y'all haven't seen this one. And before anybody says anything, this is for a friend, blah, blah, blah. So, all you copyright police.
well, you know that just because it's for a friend doesn't get you off the hook there.
Well, whatever. But all I did was burn the graphic for them. All right. Now, I did have to play with my settings to get that two-tone right there. And I was a little worried that when I put the mineral oil treatment on here that it was going to change the look, but it did not. So, but yeah, it turned out nice. And this is like a 10-pound piece of pecan that come off of a tornado blown tree. And I spent a lot of time sanding this thing.
Yeah, that's as you mentioned, it's best to stick to the things you know. I mean, you and I both run into people in various groups asking, "Hey, I've got this order. What are some settings I can use?" And that always, oh man, that would scare me to take an order and have not run it and not know. I mean, it's one thing when people, and I always try to caution people that I will share my settings with you under the caveat that you still need to do your own tests, but this gets you in the ballpark. Because
Yeah.
there's just so many variables that can make it a little bit different. And like you say, once you get to really know your material and your laser, you can dial it in for things like that. But
Yeah. Yeah, that was like I said, pecan's one of those woods that there's very few woods that I know that you can actually shade on wood as well as you can pecan and get that black and that gray look. And unfortunately, that's the last piece of pecan I got left. And she's a realtor friend of mine that's been helping my daughter look for land and houses and stuff like that. And she's took us on tours of multiple places. So when she said, "Hey, I'm looking for this, could you help me fix it?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" But we've been knowing her for a while. She's friends with my wife, and like I said, she's definitely helped my daughter out with looking for a house. So I'm like, "Yeah, I'll put you something together. It won't cost me anything, just a little time." And so that's what I come up with. And like I said, I didn't want to part with my big piece of pecan, but whatever. I'll get more. I just got to find a pecan tree somewhere. Let's see.
so Jody's
asking.
yeah.
Yeah, Jody says she's heard both of us talk about a CAD program. And what would you recommend for a new person? Says she's fairly tech savvy. I think we actually use two separate programs, but you're kind of using what you're using because you just already knew it. And I got into it for the purpose of 3D printing and designing stuff and kind of fit checking things in a virtual environment. So I run Fusion 360, but not Fusion.
Yep.
Yeah, Fusion 360. Oh, for some reason I was thinking that was wrong. But it's a very powerful software. It's not cheap. So if you don't have a way of recouping your money from it, like selling files or making stuff to sell or whatever, it's going to hurt your feelings to have to buy that license, but it can do most anything from laser files, CNC files, 3D print files. It can do it all. And then Steve, I don't even remember which exactly. Is it SketchUp is the one that that's kind of your go-to, isn't it?
Well, Yeah, I started using that, gosh, man, over 10 years ago. And so, when I'm in a pinch to do a project, I know it and I can crank it out well. However, they've also changed they have the free web version, but it doesn't necessarily work as well for exporting everything. Um, so yeah, you're going to end up probably buying into something. Now Fusion 360, you can get a free license and you can generally renew that with limitations and such, to kind of get started on it. Or there are various ways to get it at a discount through various organizations and such. Um, and and that is the one I would recommend someone looking into if they're just starting out and they're comfortable with a more complex program, because it's much like Lightburn. There's more features than you necessarily need to get started with it, but they're great to be able to use as you grow into it. And it will work well, as you mentioned, for 3D printing. You can set it up for export to CNC routing, and definitely export things uh, into your laser program. So that's what if you're starting off fresh, I would definitely look at Fusion 360. However, there are other less expensive options out there for someone who wants to do some real basic, 3D modeling. There's Tinkercad. You can get that for free. It's very easy, kind of object, create a square, pull it out to the dimensions, draw a circle on it, push it through things, kind of like that. It's similar to SketchUp, but not as necessarily powerful. But for some people, that basic stuff works pretty well. Um, there are also other just straight up free CAD packages if you look around, or very inexpensive ones that maybe will do 2D. But the way my brain works, if it gets very complex, I like to actually bring it into 3D dimensions, extrude all my panels into their material thickness, look for any issues, make sure everything kind of looks and fits right. And I can do that with SketchUp, and you can do that in Fusion 360 as well. So
Yep. Ben's asking if either one of us use ready board, foam board with a diode laser, and I hadn't. It sounds like it would be
um,
horribly messy.
uh, not so much ready board. I've cut a few different foams. If it's a white core, it's not going to work very well with the diode laser, if at all. But there are some gray foams that work really well. I've, coming from my model airplane background, that's one thing I've done on the CO2 with a lot, and you can use white foam with that as well. Some things called Depron and such that are kind of a poster board like material without the kind of the card stock faces and such, or even they used to call it, it was like that fold out fan fold or something like that. It was some insulating foam that was about a quarter-inch thick, and you could cut it with a CNC or laser or just X-Acto blades. So I've played around with those. You do definitely want to do a little research on any foam you're going to put in your laser. Some of them are not made with such friendly things, and or have, if they're a closed core, you can start getting some of those micro explosions and vapors. So do a little reading on the foam before you just throw it in your laser.
And had enough. My headset's all wonky. Had enough wants to know if either one of us have ever tried the Bob CNC free basic cam and sender. I have not.
No,
The
I'm
only
familiar with Bob's CNC, but I haven't played around with his software. Um, so unfortunately, I can't really speak to it.
Yeah, and Brian wants to know if anybody's reached out to you to review an RV yet.
Uh, no, and I hope they don't, because the taxes on an RV would be outrageous. But if they want to, have me do a long term loan of a teardrop camper trailer, baby, I'd look at that.
And more spam. And apparently, Yuri thinks that smoked spam might be tasty. We're gonna have to put that. We're gonna have to put that to the
Yeah.
test.
So you know, so Spam, they've got their headquarters here in Minnesota, and they actually have the Spam Museum is only about an hour
What?
away from me. So if
What?
everybody wants to do a meetup, we can just Austin, Minnesota. Um, we'll go meet at the Spam
Oh,
Museum, and then maybe we'll we'll sample a few different variations at the end.
Running the Merle's Verl is saying that is running the MK2 30 watt running air assist all the time. Seems to do really good keeping the lens clean. Recommendations for being able to turn down the air volume when engraving, or does it matter? The only reason it would matter would be if you're getting just way more discoloration on your material than what you want. And yes, there is a way to do it. I don't know that I would recommend it necessarily with the pump that Rolly sells. I don't know if it would cause a problem. That might be something for them to ask. But a lot of these pumps, if you start, they're not made to generate pressure. So if you start restricting the airflow, it could put a little more pressure or wear on the pump. Uh, but you can actually get little valves that you just basically cut the line and put it in line, and it's got, I've got a bunch of them, but you can turn the flow down. But like I said, keep in mind this could put a little more strain on the pump than what it was intended to be under. So, it's a sell off. Me personally, with the Rolly, I run the air all the way up all the time, and pretty much any of my machines, I run full air all the time. Worst case, I have to sand something a little bit.
So I've had a few machines that allow you to have variable air. And more of the newer ones are coming out with that. So like the S1, if you get their advanced air kit, is like that. The P2, you can set, both the S1 and the P2, you can set if it's a cut layer or a scan or score layer, you can have different air volume settings with it, which is nice. Otherwise, if you have an air pump that has a variable dial on it, that's how I've done it in the past. But I don't like the idea of constricting it with like physically constricting an air pump. That generally is not the best idea. And as you mentioned, you could usually dial in the settings that work well with the air on full, which just makes your life a lot easier. So.
Oh yeah. Wait a minute, wrong one. Rusty, I'm not sure which machine you're talking about. It depends on the machine as far as if you're talking about like motor locking panel. The X40, because it's oriented differently, I went with putting the legs on the right side and putting the teeth on the right side to maximize bed space and minimize the size of the jig kit. Most of the other machines, it was always on the top of the Y-axis, basically. But with the Atom stack, it would have just been huge. It would have been up in the way, and using 1/4 inch material, the bowing and stuff like that for that long of a span would have been a little bit hectic. So I decided to go with the teeth being on the right side, and you can see in my enclosure on the mine is on the left side, but I used my universal kit and just mounted it in there myself, as opposed to using it under the legs, just because it was easier to do in the enclosure. But the one that I built is built to go on the right set of legs, opposite of the controller end of the machine. The rest of them have always been at the top of the Y-axis until they came out and swapped it around on me.
So, Not Board Woodworking had a comment on that custom board you made. Said it was half gorgeous and half ugly as anything they've ever seen. Must be a I don't know or which fans they were of, but apparently they are strong fans of one team and not the other. But
do what now?
Not Board Woodworking had a comment on your pecan board. That it's half gorgeous and half ugly.
Yeah, well, that's. I guess she's one of those that goes for whichever or both or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. So,
trying to get caught up. Comments keep coming.
So Joseph is commenting that Sir Mark is very expensive, and yes, it is the more expensive compound out there. And definitely understand as a hobbyist where that that can of spray might not be something in your budget. But if you're wanting consistency and you're charging out for your projects, that can goes a long way, and you should be able to price that into the project pretty well. And that's the thing I appreciate is you can do a lot with a lot of these other types of paint. Even like on glass, tempera paint works well, but you got to get it on. You got to get an even coat. You got to get it on smooth and full coverage, or it's going to show up in your engraving. Whereas, most of these laser marking sprays go on a lot smoother and even. That just makes your job easier. So you're either going to spend the money or spend the time is the way I look at it. Now, if you're doing it as a hobbyist, you probably can do the time, but if you're trying to crank out orders, that's where you start justifying the cost of the spray. And Wes is asking how the screen printer is working out. They're thinking about getting one.
Well, you had yours longer, so I'll let you go first. You've probably done more with it.
So I originally got just what I received was pre-production. They had kind of put together a single color kit for me to do some video work on and try to get some awareness out about it. They recently did finally get me some extra frames to where I'd be able to do multicolor, but I only have a handful of the actual screens, and I'm waiting for those to become available to be able to purchase more, because I do want to do some t-shirts. I've actually have a couple of small businesses asking me about small runs of t-shirts, because they're having trouble getting the right type of shirt. Their logo is a little bit different than some of the other places feel they can do, whereas this process with the laser might work better. So I'm kind of waiting for some of that to come in stock so I can do a little more plain. As my opinion of it, if you're doing small runs, maybe as just as a hobbyist or a very small shop, it's great. But if you're going to start doing multiple runs, especially multiple color, that's where you're probably going to run into it being the limiting factor very quick. But if you already have a laser, the price is pretty attractive to be able to get into and start doing some playing. So and that's where I was at. Is I had done it a couple times in some various. I mean, they do it at the college I work at in the graphics program, and then at the makerspace and such. So I had experienced it, but never had my own play with and do things on. So, but yeah, I mean, you can, want to make some of your own promotional things, you can do that pretty easy with one of these. You want to, whether it's, I mean, obviously this is for my channel and such, but everybody does like the family reunion swag or whatever. This would be a way to be able to do that without, paying a whole lot. That being said, if you don't want to get into screen printing, but want to do some customization, look into DTF. You can get those made for you pretty simple. They basically just iron on or heat press on, and they seem to be. I've done a couple of them. As a matter of fact, that's what this is. It's also an option for doing some customizations where you just order it from a place without having to buy the special laser printer and material and toner, and then either a heat press or an iron on will work.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not the silk screener of the family. When they asked me to take the machine, the laser side of it, I thought it was cool. I thought it was neat, and I would like to be able to make my own hoodies and stuff instead of having to order them, because I'm a big fan of, let's say, Carhartt and some of the other companies that you can't really go to places and order that kind of stuff. These I get from Spring through my affiliate store or whatever. But I wanted to get like some Carhartt or some Wall or something like that. That's a little higher end stuff and do my own. And so when they mentioned sending it, Brandy was like, I'd be willing to do it. And so she seems like she's going to enjoy it. I don't think she's done a whole lot with it this week because it's been just, one of those weeks. We have, kids to pick up and drop off, and she does most of that. And so by the time she gets through with her day, screen printing is not really at the top of the agenda. So she hasn't done a whole lot with it yet, but we did look around Tractor Supply yesterday, and I found some shirts that I wanted to do, but they all put pockets on there, and I don't know that having a pocket and a logo, because they put the pocket on the side where the logo needs to go. So I just don't know unless I put the logo on the pocket. But then the companies like to stick their logo on the pocket. So we're still trying to find the perfect blanks for
Um,
doing that. I did find some hoodies that match this one that are Wall brand that they sell at Tractor Supply, and I got two of those, one for me and one for Brandy.
do you have do you have a Hobby Lobby near you?
There's one like 35 miles away. Yeah.
Because I know the one here does stock. What is it? Like Comfort Colors and a couple and a few of the other brands in just blank. But the quarter zips, the hoodies, the t-shirts, and they have a pretty good price on them actually. Comparable or maybe even better to Amazon if you're wanting to buy onesie twosies. Now, if you're going to buy in bulk, then there are other options
Yeah.
for that. But that might be somewhere to look.
Yeah. Matt's asking that the light burn issues, latest updates fix the issues with the S1. The problem with the S1 is that there's functions that the machine offers that Lightburn doesn't support. And until they add that functionality to Lightburn, in my opinion, you're going to be better off run XCS and on for the S1 as well as the P2. Uh, and XCS has came a long way, albeit it's not the design software that X2 that
Like we're
Lightburn is. That Lightburn is. I'm trying to read comments and talk. Um, you lose some functionality trying to design in XCS, but it's easy enough to design it in Lightburn and then just send it SVG or DXF over to XCS. But as far as the actual deployment of the burn, you lose a lot of functionality with Lightburn, and I'm not crazy about that. And if the machine didn't have that functionality, I wouldn't worry about it. But it's some of the stuff's pretty cool. Like the autofocus works with Lightburn, but like the curved surface and some of the other things, the 2 point marking that it does, that doesn't work in Lightburn currently. Now it may one day as other companies come on board and start doing it, but you got to look at it from Lightburn's perspective too. They're not going to rewrite their software to support one particular machine, and you really can't blame them on that. So,
right.
and I have actually been playing with Carbide 3D, Carbide Create, as well as the Carbide. Is it Move or Send or? Hang on, I got to look at the icon. Carbide Motion. I've been playing with those because I do, as y'all know, I plan on getting the Shapeco 5 Pro to go over there. I just haven't done it yet. I'm still enjoying the 6050 for now. I'm playing around with it and learning V-carve. So I figure if I'm going to cut a spoil board or a machine in half, go ahead and do it now before I get the big one.
Well, Chris over in the UK said they used my CAD files for the D1 enclosure, really liked it, and posted a picture on Etsy. Yeah, I think I saw that one come through, and it looks great. So glad that worked out well for you. And I actually had a Facebook memory come up on my personal page from 2 years ago when I was kind of tinkering with the design. I hadn't quite settled on it yet, and so it was kind of a fun flashback to look at when I was trying to work through that. But yeah, glad that worked out for you, and that it looked like a really good build you had.
I have no idea on this question.
Yeah, I haven't dealt with any of those materials, so I can't really speak to that. I'm not sure
Yeah. Yeah,
what
Lisa's just
all is
asking.
involved there. The one of the big things to stay away from is anything that has vinyl in it. So that's going to release some uh, bad gas that's going to damage your lungs and your machine. But outside of that, you have to probably look at what the materials are made of.
Steve, I have an old one from the early days of the Clack Shack. The cameras were not as good, and the audio definitely wasn't as good. But whew, I don't know why I always get sleepy when I'm sitting still. It's because I'm always moving. But but I guess I could redo it maybe. Somebody else was asking me to do like a tour of how I've got everything connected with the lasers and all that. And I got other people wanting to see how I've got the CNC set up. So I guess one day I just need to get my little handheld camera out and go around and do all of them again. But the kiln that I built is about as DIY as it gets. Uh, I had a friend of mine that was clearing a lot off down on the river, and they had a lot of nice pine trees down there, and he was trying to get rid of the logs instead of burning them. So I went and, got me a couple of trailer loads of them, brought them home, milled them up, and just kind of let them air dry for a week or two here. Before I had all this in here, I just stacked wood in here and let it air dry, and got it down to where I could actually build with it. And I framed it up with it's actually got a true 2x12 band, and then like true 1x10 2x10 floor joists, and then it's got lap siding. Good lord, board and batten siding on it, and it's got 2 layers of the thick, was it 5 mil, I think it is, moisture barrier, as well as just general pink insulation in the walls. And then it's got a dehumidifier and 4 of the large heat lamps in there for heat. When I run the heat, most of the time I just run the dehumidifier, and it'll stay around 90 degrees in there, whether it's winter or summer. In the summertime, since it's on the south facing side of my building, when the sun hits it, it'll actually heat up to about 120 degrees in there, and all I have to run is the dehumidifier. So it takes me about 4 to 6 weeks to dry, say black walnut, white oak, red oak, or something like that, with the heat on, and it uses a thermostat that cuts it off at like 150, 165 degrees, and lets it cool back down. And then when it drops below, thermostat kicks it back up, and the lights come on and the fans start blowing again. So it's DIY, but it works. That's where, like I said, all this wood that I get, because it doesn't do you any good to mill this lumber and then try to build with it if it's not dry, because it'll twist itself apart. But I'll have to do another touch-up video.
I think I missed the first question here, but Michael was mentioning to Ben that Fox Alien previously had a wire foam cutter CNC. Not sure if it's still sold, though. Yeah, I haven't looked too much into these recently. I had one that was developed for the RC hobby a number of years ago, called Foam Casualty, and it was kind of a cool machine that had a hot wire on the gantry, and they were kind of independent left and right, and so you could actually have one moving more than the other, so it could actually skew that wire, which is great for cutting out wings. But then it would rotate over, and then it would have a mill head so that it could pocket out for things that are needed as well. So unfortunately that it's no longer made or supported. Actually ran on a Linux G-code CNC center, but yeah, I haven't seen a whole lot of other hot wire foams. Not that I've looked for them too much recently, but they are an interesting thing.
Yeah. I missed this one earlier, but not Board was saying that my internet was struggling, but that's not the case. I don't think that's the problem, seeing that I'm running. I just checked it, and I'm running, I don't know, 950 megs. So it's not my internet. If I do have any problems, it's either going to be something with the computer or Facebook or YouTube having a problem. It's not typically on my end.
It's often when it's being it's the encoding on the service providers, and like, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, whoever, that's where it tends to be. But sometimes it's not. But it's been pretty solid. I haven't noticed you fading out on me. So
yeah, I haven't either. Like I said, and guys, I've got a full gig of internet to my house, and then I have Cat 6 double shielded cabling run from here to the main router back in the house, and I've got everything terminated with Cat 6 ends and all that. So I have a 2 millisecond ping and 960 something megs to Atlanta right now. So I don't think it's on my end there.
yeah, got a lot more than I got.
Yeah, well, and the weird thing is you can go to downtown where all the big businesses are, and the most internet you can get is like 50 megs. But I live out here 15 minutes from the center of the, Clanton, and I got a gig in my shop. So but it's because I'm on a electric cooperative, and they already had a power line and decided they wanted to get into fiber optic cabling, and they did, and it's awesome. Because for years I did not have any internet here, and then finally it came. Brad saying he's thinking about getting the 6050, just wondering what the footprint was, so he can build a table for it. Do you know right off, or do I need to?
No. I know I mentioned it in my video, but I haven't thought about it since. So I know it fits just barely on about a 30-inch deep, because you got that stepper motor sticking out the back. You got to leave room for, and then
I'm
also
gonna say probably about 42 on the width, and 33 on the front and back.
and also that the drag chain is going to come forward of that when it's all the way forward too. So you want a little wiggle room, or nothing
it does,
impeding
doesn't
it
it?
in front. So
Yeah.
yeah, about 33 by what'd you say, 42?
Yeah, it's pretty, because that stepper is like 6 inches from the back of the
Yeah,
machine.
it
So yeah,
sticks out a ways. And then
for probably
also on the
42
side,
for
on the left side too, it sticks off to the side as well. So you can't have it just shoved right up against the wall. So
yeah, no,
she's not tiny.
no, and it's not light either. So if you're going to put it on a table, make sure it's a very sturdy table.
Yeah.
I think it's what, 170 something pounds.
I've moved mine 3 or 4 times since I assembled it and cried each time.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm that's one thing too is, when I get my really big machine, I'm gonna have to reconfigure some stuff, because the computer is not gonna be able to sit on the corner of the table when I get the 5 Pro, because it's gonna take that entire table up. So it's a mess.
Hmm.
The DI, what is this? DI, what is a DI extended?
Maybe D1.
Oh, it works on the D1. That's been done. It's the same. The y-axis is the same on the extended and the standard. And I even made like an extra panel that you can like slap in there that's longer. So if it's the D1, then yeah, I did that like a year ago. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, the D1 and the D1 Pro and the D1 standard, D1 extended, the y-axis on those machines is, or I guess it'll be the x-axis is the same. It goes on the back legs. The back legs don't change. The only thing that changes is the side rails for the Y. I'm not sure if they're talking to me or talking to you or Patty. Hinge top with the orange acrylics. That could be either me or you one. Either one. But
Yeah, the Falcon 2 I think is a little bit bigger than the D1, correct? In one of the dimensions at least. And so
I think the front. I think it comes out further. Maybe.
yeah, that sounds about right. So unfortunately mine would need to be stretched um, to fit that. I haven't drawn up any of that. I'm currently working on trying to finalize some drawings for a Enclosurzilla Lite that will work with extended lasers and or would fit others with a lot of extra room, I guess. But yeah, unfortunately, when I was originally designing my enclosure, my thought process around it was I wanted it to contain the X-Tool D1 that I had gotten and have the laser up so that I could just pull the tray out of the way, use the rotary, which was just the roller rotary at the time. And I wanted it fairly compact because I was going to put it down in my basement workshop. Then came along, the need to be taller for the RA2 and the cameras, and then they added the extensions. so I never got around to really modifying that one for anything larger. But some people have stretched them out a little bit, but then you got to kind of, you got to make sure you're changing all the relational items and such. But yeah, what about you've got the original enclosure plans out there somewhere. Would that fit, or is that too small?
Yeah, those that original enclosure plan that I had, yes, that's the one I actually ran my Creality in. I ran the Creality in it. I ran the O'Toole Laser Master 3, the Comgrow Z1. Uh, what else? Atom Stack A30, I think, was in it for a little brief period. Yeah, it's big enough to house the Creality. And there should be plans on either my website or I think I dropped them in the laser engraving community page too under the downloads. And of course, now my current version, that is a longer B. Was it B1? Yeah,
Hmm.
B1. And I've got enough room on either side that I keep these little trays and stuff in here. Like I got a tray on this side that holds tools and spare lenses and stuff like that. So I've still got plenty of room in here. That's where I'm planning on putting the 70-watt Pro that Adam Stack's going to send me because they asked me if I wanted the 850 by 850, which is just way too much laser for what I do. So I told them I would rather not have the 850 by 850, that I would rather have I think the other one's like is it 430 by 430? Or
No, I think it
450 by
was
450?
it was 500 front to back, and then like 4 to 430 wide.
Yeah.
I'd have to
So
look
I,
back.
I told them to send me that one because I got plenty of room in this enclosure to house that without having to rebuild an enclosure. But I have no desire for 850 by 850. If I need anything that big, I'll put me a laser module on the Shapeco 5 when it gets here.
It's 500 by 400.
Okay, so yeah, it's gonna be. Is that 500 wide? I hope.
No, I think it's 500 deep. Let's see
Mm,
here.
I
Oh
might
no,
have a
500
problem.
wide, 500 wide, 400 deep.
I was gonna say I thought I called myself looking at it,
The
but
the
yeah,
frame the frames they say the frame is 600 by 645, 600 deep, 645 wide.
yeah.
So yeah,
I'm trying to scroll these comments. We're way behind because I'm looking at the timestamps on them. They're 15 minutes ago.
Bill Hunter's asking. I've heard cutting vinyl is bad. True, and yes, the vinyl contains chlorine, and when you burn that, it creates chlorine gas, which is corrosive to your laser and bad for your lungs. So it's very toxic to both you and your machine. Um, and so I stay away from it. I wouldn't even try to play around with trying to vent it out because you never know if you're getting it all. You could still corrode your machine, and then whatever's outside has to deal with it, and that could actually get you in a lot of troubles if someone wanted to make a deal out of it. So they do make some laser safe vinyl if you're looking for like the adhesive type stuff. I've never played with it, but that's an option. Otherwise, if you're looking to cut just thin vinyl, the decal type stuff, look into the vinyl cutters. I actually have one. I kind of split with a friend. It's over at his shop right now. They're pretty easy to use and make quick work out of cutting out that adhesive vinyl stuff.
Jack is asking. I wonder if Milmage will fork to cover that laser. I'm not sure what that means.
Well,
I don't
Milmage
know.
is the software that Lightburn's developing for CNCs.
Oh no, I can actually. I don't know about the other one, but I know this one. I could actually set it up in Lightburn. Now the origin's all messed up. But I actually had it the other day, moved it around with Lightburn, but it was moving opposite. So I would actually have to go in and tweak the settings, but I didn't want to do all that. I was afraid I'd mess up something. So I quit doing it. But no, the software, from my understanding, it will still, because it's GRBL controller, it's still capable of being ran by Lightburn if you put the laser module on there. And same thing with this one, but I just haven't. I haven't done it because I was afraid I was going to mess my CNC up because I do not know enough about it yet. Haven't done enough research to be messing around with it. Steve, have you tried yours yet? I will tell you, don't home it because it don't know where home is.
No, I don't have a laser module for the Genmitsu, so I haven't played around with it in Lightburn.
Well, see, what I was going to do is, I have that ComGrow 20-watt module upgrade. And so, I'd have a 3D printer. So I was considering it. So I was like, I wonder if Lightburn can see it. And it can, and it can move it. It moves it. It's set up, but it moves it opposite direction of what it needs to. So I had to go in and, basically mirror the outputs and all that to get it to work properly. But yeah, so I was tinkering with that idea, and then I decided I had too much stuff going on to be playing with that right now. Because I figured a 20-watt ComGrow module would be plenty, no faster than it can move. Which you talking about? I guess you're talking about the chip collection or the dust collector. Y'all can't see it, so I'm guessing you're talking about the chip collection. I've actually got two of them over there. One of them blows out through the wall for my planer and everything, and then the one that you see the bag hanging off of is just for the CNC. Then that's so that when I'm running the CNC for hours on end, I don't pump all my air conditioned air outside. But the other one actually just blows out through a 4-inch pipe out through the wall. And when my pile gets too big, I take the tractor, scoop it up, and go dump it in a chicken pen because it makes really good compost.
So Yuri mentioned there should be a way to laser off an old screen, spray it with something so it can be lasered again. And actually, yeah, you can get an emulsion cleaner, so you don't even have to laser it off, which will remove everything from the screen, and then you can then reapply the emulsion and cure it, and then send it through the laser again. The issue is if you want to do a multicolor design, you have to have multiple frames because you put the one frame in, pull the design, put the other frame in, and they need to be keyed the same. So once you pull that screen out of the old frame, you're basically done with it as far as a multicolor design. You could put it back in if it was a single color design, and I've done that. But that's why I've been waiting for the extra frames. But I'm also kind of running out of screens to play around with, and I need to play around with that process yet. But they're supposed to be, I think, $25 for 4 of them. So whenever they get them caught up with their pre-orders and such, and they have those available, I'm definitely going to be buying a couple packs of those to do more playing.
Brent's asking if I could help design a 3D printed part. I could show you the process in some of the videos that I've done, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Unless it's really simple, right now time is a premium around here. I have got 14 stove covers that are on my board and 4 cutting boards, and I just knocked out a bunch of them the other day. So I needed to have been working on those today, but I've got videos that I'm behind on that I'm trying to catch up on as well. So this week after work, guess what Clack's going to be doing? Making stove covers. And Wes says he found a local sawmill for projects, took a tour of it the other day. And I'm telling you guys, we were in Lowe's yesterday getting the panels for the stove covers that I've got to make this week. And they had a piece of pine. And I told Brandy, I was like, you see that board right there? And she's like, yeah, it looks like some of that stuff you burn all the time. Look at the price tag. It was $94 for a piece of what I've got a stack of it up there right now, ready to burn. And they were selling it for $94. And it was offcuts because the first 2 or 3 cuts into a log, it's got all the bark and it's really bad to warp and twist. And so I burn it or give it away. And they had it $94 for an 8-foot board that was only like 11 inches wide. And I was like, that's ridiculous. But you can get that stuff. You can get stuff that most sawmill folks don't want to fool with, and you can cut a little 2-foot piece out of it that makes great, like, rustic-looking signs and stuff like that. But you're going to need to dry it before you start doing a whole lot with it.
Verl's asking, X-Tool F1 looks to be a fairly decent starter fiber laser. Have either of you had experience with one? I do have one. It's a Galvo laser. Uh, it's a Galvo laser, but not actual fiber. It does have an IR module, 2-watt IR module to allow you to mark on more metals than you can with the blue watt. But it's not really going to be useful for doing any sort of like depth of engraving on that. Even our 20-watt Galvos are pushing it to do much depth. They can, but the X2F1 is, I think, it. I've said this before. It's really great if you need something small and portable, because it can mark on both natural materials with the 10-watt blue diode, as well as the 2-watt IR for metals and some other plastics and such. It's great for like on the spot engraving and such, but it has its limitations. It can't cut as well as a 10-watt diode, blue diode that has, an air assist cone and is properly moving around rather than at an angle. Um, and like I said, the 2-watt IR is going to be okay for marking items. The Galvo on it makes it faster, but it's still going to take a while on some larger items. So where I recommend it is if you need it to be compact, or if you want to take it, on the road to a show, events and things like that. Outside of that, you can get the same abilities and better power doing a normal gantry style with swappable heads, and or if you're really just looking at trying to get into a fiber laser, some of those 20-watt Galvo fibers are starting to come down to that price of where it's really close to what the X-Tool F1 is at. Now you'll lose the blue watt capability of it in those. Those are just dedicated fiber lasers. But if you're looking to really play around with metal and not looking to be portable with it, I think maybe it might not be the best thing for you.
Yeah. Like I said, I haven't got any experience with that one, but I do have, like I said, I've got the same fiber that you do, the call marker B4.
Yep.
20 watt, and it does a good job. But like you said, if you're going to do anything with any depth, it takes longer. It's still not as long as it would if it was just a 2-watt module, but it takes a little bit longer to get depth. But with one of the things that I've done with is brass and doing the little challenge coins and stuff, and you can actually get different shading and stuff like that. It like you said, it's effective, but it's probably not the most efficient fiber laser on the market for sure. The more power, but there again, it's not the most expensive either. A couple of folks asking what kind of wood I use for my jig kits, and I use the same old stuff. It's 1/4-inch Luan, 4.5 millimeter. Ooh, that's dusty. 4.5 millimeter Luan, and it's mostly all I use, unless somebody asks for something specific. I do have some mahogany that I've milled down over there, some black walnut and some other woods, but for the most part, it's going to be the Luan or some of the stuff that you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's, which mixed results with that. I like this stuff better. I get it locally. Checked out the Crowley K1C. Is that the printer? I haven't
been keeping up with their stuff right now.
Yeah. Somebody asked me the other day about what's your next 3D printer going to be, and I'm like, why would I want to get another one? The one I got works awesome. I just printed this today. Like this
You
is
need a faster one.
Why? When I started this print this morning at 9:00. When I went and got it off the printer? Like right before the live, because I forgot about it. Because I started printing it and I come out here and went to work. But this is going to be the air assist relay mount for Enclosure Zilla. Even though Adam Stack's pump seems to be working really well, I want to get back on Shop Air to where I can tune it and play with it. And so I had to print me. I've got two 24-volt relays now, so I had to print me a little holder for my relay. That's a job for whenever I get caught up.
Well, you'll eventually find a time where you're sitting there waiting for it, and you'll be wanting something faster.
Maybe one day. We'll see. Somebody's asking Rolly MK2 versus the We Create. Any thoughts? Yeah, Rolly. MK2, whichever you want to call it. I mean, bigger work area, light burn compatible. That's all I need because that as good as it could be until they open it up to Lightburn. To me, I do not like their software. I'm sorry, but it is as far as functionality, the machine itself, the mechanical machine works fine. It works great. If you've never used a laser before and you're not stuck on Lightburn, who cares? But if you're like me and you're used to Lightburn or at the minimum XCS, you're not going to like the Create software. Now, if you're brand new and don't know any better, you might. The mechanics of the machine are fine. It's the software, and if they will revamp their software or either add Lightburn compatibility, I think it would be a game changer for the machine. So since you have it also, Steve, you don't have the MK2, but you have the We Create. What is your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I do not have the Lasermatic. I don't have one. I have never seen one in person. I have not touched one or played with one. I would say get the Lasermatic. You said it all. They're a newer company. They had a nice idea, and I think they have potential. They definitely need to work on their software. When they say it's Lightburn compatible, that compatibility is you can design in Lightburn and export the G code, and you have zero control. You basically load that file into We Create and tell it, yep, everything's good, hit go, and you can't even move it around on the workspace. You have to make sure that you have everything aligned just perfectly. So for me, it's just not working with Lightburn. You can design and export, but then you're limited to their software and how you control things. You cannot get that machine to be bidirectional within We Create. They'd had to nerf it because they were running into issues where it would lose steps. I struggle with because of the limitations of software and there are some mechanics on that machine where if everything's working great, it's fine, but it's not the easiest thing to work on either. So if you have to start removing panels, I mean, even just to clean the lens on that We Create, you got to tip the thing up on its side, and it's not a light machine. So there's just too many things about it that I kind of go, they need to work on this yet. So yeah, I would, not having used a Lasermatic, but just knowing what some of my colleagues like David and other people that have them, I would definitely recommend that over there.
Well, you've got the don't you have the Algo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the Alpha.
As far as performance wise, speed, agility, the precision of the dot and everything, I would have to stick the Lasermatic and the Algo. I mean, they're right there comparable machines. Difference is fully enclosed, honeycomb that don't move, jig panel that you can purchase extra, pins that align the chuck. I mean, those is what puts this machine over the top, in my opinion, as far as a lot of the other machines. I just this week was trying to do a job on my P2, and that thing was moving. And even though it's not a lot of vibration, it was causing my honeycomb to slightly move a little bit occasionally. And so I had to engineer a way to keep the honeycomb from sliding on me. And you don't have that problem with this one. So that's the one thing that I will say. There's a lot of things about it that will prevent you from having to engineer stuff or fix stuff or whatever. That's why you haven't seen any jigs or anything for that one, because you really don't need them. I mean, the only thing that I've got that I use with it, and I think they're in my other machine right now, are my magnets. I got basically they're little squares with magnets that hold stuff in position, and I use them just to basically extra precaution, make sure nothing moves in there. Because these machines, if you start running really high speeds, they do create a little bit of, even if they're on a good solid counter, you're still going to get a little bit of vibration to the honeycomb, which can cause it to move in some of the other machines. But that honeycomb doesn't move. You have to worry more about the material sliding on the honeycomb than you do the honeycomb moving. Lisa, I use hobby panels now. I used to make my own panels by putting biscuits in the wood and gluing it up and putting it in clamps overnight and all that, but I couldn't keep up with production. And so I went to using just hobby panels now. Pine, 3/4 inch thick hobby panels from Home Depot or Lowe's, cut them to the size you need. That's where I'm at now because I could not keep up trying to take 1x4s and make my own panels.
Now, your trophy shop guy in town, did he get the Thunderbolt laser, or did he get one of their other ones?
Oh yeah. You got the Bolt. I've been.
All right. Well,
I've
then
been,
maybe
I've
you
been
can
running.
speak to this one.
I've actually had a little bit of time on the Bolt. Just gonna throw this out there because it runs on Lightburn, and he has used what's the other software? The older software, not Adobe, but anyway, he used the older software. And so Lightburn is new to them, and so they've had to call me a couple of times. It was like, "Hey, can you come by and show us some stuff?" And so I've did a few training sessions using the Bolt, and all I can say is it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. Now I like the P2 for what I'm doing with it, for what I'm using it for. I like the P2, but the P2 compared to the Bolt, as far as speed, the P2 actually is stronger than the Bolt as far as the wattage rating, but that Bolt is so smooth, it's so fast. The resolution on that Bolt, I did some, see if I got the picture. I did a badge the other day on some material that they had, which was basically black over silver coated metal. And the resolution that I got out of that Bolt was comparable to fiber, what I can do on the 20 watt. And it just shocked me. I don't think I still got the picture. I don't. But I think I sent it to you. But but the Bolt is a different animal. It's a lot more expensive, but like the way the lenses come out, being able to access things and work on them and everything, it looks like it'd be a lot simpler, a lot easier than the X tool. It doesn't have whereas the X tool was kind of built like a modular machine to where you can buy the base machine and then you buy the bottom part to where you can expand it, downward. The Bolt is built automatically with a drop deck, automatic focus. I mean, and it's got autofocus like 3D printers use to where it has a touch probe. It raises it up, it touches the probe, it calculates, it drops it back down, and all you have to do is hit autofocus in Lightburn, and it touches off and it sets the focus, and it's perfect every time. So the Bolt it's a different animal. It's, to me, that is where the hobby realm touches the business realm as far as speed. That thing, the speed that module moves or that head moves is just insane. And when the salesperson told him that he would be, because he's got an older machine that he's had for a long time, and when she told him that he would have like 10 times the resolution, I thought there's no way. But it's like I said, he's getting fiber grade results on that coated metal out of that CO2 machine. It's unreal. And we had to take the lenses out, check them, make sure they were clean and everything. And it's easy because, like, literally there's a thumb screw. You loosen the thumb screw and you can slide the mirror out, clean it, and slide it back in there and tighten that screw up, and it never moves. You don't have to worry about, if I clean it, I'm gonna knock it out of alignment. It's built like a train. So I do like it, but I can't afford one.
So if you were having to finance one, would you go one way or the other?
It depends on how much money you're going to get out of it. If I had to go buy one for what I do, no. Now, for what my buddy does at the trophy shop, and as much as he runs that machine, I probably would. I'd probably go ahead and bite the bullet and get the Thunder. But for what I do, no more than I use a CO2, I probably wouldn't shuck out that kind of money. But he runs his machine every day, all day. Now he's not running the Thunder that much yet because they haven't got proficient with it with a lot of their materials. They're still having to test and build a library of settings and stuff like that. But
all
for
right.
For a hobbyist, I think the P2 is adequate to do most what you're going to be wanting to do. And I'm telling you, it will rip when it comes to cutting.
That being said, though, the P2 is not that much cheaper than the Bolt.
Really? Well, I
Yeah,
guess by the time you add the riser and everything.
I mean it's the Bolt is starts at 5,500 according to their website, and the P2 is on average 4,500 on up with accessories, right? And
I
as
don't
you
know.
mentioned, that doesn't come with the riser, so
I don't know. That would be something to consider. Now, I will tell you, it's a lot bigger than the P2.
well, yeah.
Uh, it's tall. I mean, you could almost put wheels on it and still use it without having to add a table or anything. But yeah, it's a good machine. I'm not knocking it. I've been running it. I haven't run it as much as well. I've probably ran it about as much as I have the. No, I've run the P2 more, but I've used a wider variety of materials with the P2, and I'm getting really good results. But I haven't tested this machine on that material that I used on his the other day, because he does buy his material in bulk from, like, was it JTL or JL distributors or whatever. So that would be something to ponder. That one doesn't have a chiller. You don't have to worry about that because it's air cooled. Uh, I mean, there's a lot of differences. The camera on it's really accurate. I will say that they had a built-in camera in the lid. I don't like that's the only negative. If I had to say anything about it, is why in the world did they put the camera on the lid instead of like Xtool did, mounting it against the back wall? Because there were several times the other day I'd update overlay and I'd have a picture of the wall behind me. So that was the only thing that I could critique it
Well,
about.
I think Xtool gets away with that because they also have the secondary camera on the head. Because the further you get away from that one, I mean, if you have a smaller piece towards the front of the P2 and the camera's way at the back, you'll see some aberration even in the image it creates. So
Yeah. Uh, Cheap oven cleaner barrel to clean your honeycomb with. But I'd have to, like I said, let me play with that one a little bit more. I'll have to think about that. Now, I didn't realize they were that much, as far as the price wise. I didn't realize they were that close together.
um, yeah, really, you just need any degreaser for the honeycomb in general, because what's on there is basically the vaporization of the glues and the resins of the wood. You know, especially if you're doing plywood, they just get vaporized and they stick to the metal in there. So yeah, I mean, a foaming oven cleaner work. If you want something a little less caustic, you can get just like Dawn Power Wash or LA Awesome is stuff that works really well in general. You just want to spray it down, let it sit, and then rinse it off.
Uh, any tips on getting an image to trace more accurately in Lightburn? Trace the military patch that does not pick up a lot of the details. Unless you've got high color contrast and clearly defined lines, I mean, you play with it and get the best result. And you can sometimes trace it in multiple layers if you need to, because sometimes it'll pick up the inner design better, but it'll lose the outer, and sometimes it'll get the outer and lose the inner. So a lot of times you can actually trace an image, bring it in, replicate it, and trace it twice, and trace the inside stuff first time, the outside stuff the second time, and then add the two together, clean it up, and make it look better. Uh, but if not all images are going to trace real well. Do, 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 do.
So James is asking, he's got just cleaned his D1 Pro 20 watt and noticed the lens had a spot on it, so replaced it with the backup that was sent with my machine. Can I replace the lens that is in the brass piece? Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, I sell packs of these on Etsy. That's just the glass, as well as I include some O-rings to help put it back in without having to be glued in, or use the brass ring if yours is old enough to have one of those. But yeah, you may need to soak it in some acetone to get it to release. They did take to starting to glue some of those in over time, so you might have to let it soak for a bit before it'll pop out. But then, yeah, it literally is just clear glass. So you just need the right size to fit in there, and it needs to be clean. That's the thing, and cleaned with something that's not going to leave a film, that's not going to leave debris on it, and then that'll be fine. So um, you don't need to replace the whole brass and glass and buy it direct from them for that. And that's true on most of them. So
Yeah, I've been using Steve's lenses for about a year now. They work, but if you run your laser enough, especially if you're doing some really nasty stuff, it's going to get on there. It's going to cause a problem. I run air assist all the time, but occasionally I still lose a lens to the struggle. Most of the lenses I've lost though is because my air compressor went bad. I didn't realize it, and it started spitting water on the lens, and that'll end one quick.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, moisture will do it.
Mark, I'm not sure, but I can say that from my recollection, the Thunder is probably the same width as the P2, but I think it's deeper.
It's 20 by 12.
The Thunder is
Yep,
okay. So
I've got their
the
website
P.
up.
So I was going to say, how did you know that so quick? So then the P2, because the P2 is actually what 14. So
Yeah, it's a little bit wider on
so
the P2. It sounds like.
maybe it just looks bigger because the inside of the chassis is so much more open. I bet that's what it is because it looks bigger, but I guess it's just an illusion. Or maybe the honeycomb's bigger. The work area is not. Don't know. Now I got to go measure that thing. Yeah, 20 by 12. Like I said, it may be. It just seemed like it was bigger than that. Oh, need to order some of those. I'm trying to scroll these comments, but I'm still behind. No, I'm getting caught up. I'm getting caught up. Steve lenses are real good quality. Don't tell Steve that. What's up, Martins? Curbside Creations. Yeah, I will say this now. Steve's, you can buy a pack of Steve's lenses of what? You send them 8 to a box or 8 to a card or whatever.
Yeah, they're 8 lenses. I include a little 3D printed removal tool that may or may not help with unscrewing the actual. Especially if you have the older ones had a brass nut on the inside that was always hard to get out. So that 3D tool works well for those. And then I include a couple of high temp O-rings that will go in. You put the lens into the brass cap, you put the O-ring in, and then you screw it onto the bottom of the module, and then that O-ring just kind of cinches it up, holds it in place so that you don't have to re-glue it or worry about that nut. So
Yeah, I was just like the single. If you get a single from Atom Stack, I think has the cheapest replacement lenses on the market because most of them are the same, and they're $30 a piece, and it takes like a couple of weeks to get them if you order them from them directly. So I do know it's a much more cost effective route. Brad's asking what drag chain do y'all recommend? I'm gonna be honest with you. Most of the machines I'm getting in now come with a drag chain, but I just been the ones that didn't come with it, like my old Acer, the P20 and the L30, or not the L36, the V36. I used just some Amazon generic ones. I think me and you used the same ones, didn't we?
Yeah, I've really at that point there's two things to look at. What size do you need? So is there a certain width because you have so many cables, or height because you have a certain tube? And then you got to worry obviously about how long you need it. But then there's two different styles. Ones that will have like snap-on covers so that you can actually lay the cable in instead of trying to fish it through. Those are nice, but then those covers can also pop off. So, but yeah, it just really go off of the size you feel you need, and yes, Amazon generics.
I knew this question was eventually going to come up. We knew it was. Oh, well, first of all, my CNC experience so far has been limited to Sane Smart Genmitsu machines. Started off with the 4040, got the 3030, now I got the 6050. The reason that I'm going to go with the Shapeco, one reason is because I got a good friend of mine here in town. His name's Tip. Stanley's his real name. He's a retired sergeant major with the Army, and he does a lot of CNC work. And me and him are involved in a lot of groups together. We, like he got a X-Tool D1 and was doing some laser engraving. So we've kind of ran into each other, and we've talked shop a lot. And I know Tip uses the Shapeco. He's got the Shapeco 4, I think he said, 4 foot by 4 foot. And I have sat down and talked to him about his machine and how well it's performed and what kind of stuff he does, speeds, feeds, all that kind of stuff. And from what I can tell, it's a good machine. Another channel that I watch also has one, and so you know, 731 Woodworks, he has a Shapeco, as well as Samcraft has a Shapeco, and so I've watched every video they have on the machines. I've talked to Sam about his. He said he loves his. Hadn't had any complaints with it. Steve was trying to sell me on the Onefinity, and it was kind of up in the air. I was torn between the X-Carve Pro, the Shapeco 5 Pro, and the Onefinity Elite that they just came out with. And to be honest with you, when I emailed the companies and was like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, I'm looking at getting a machine, the response I got from the companies was kind of what pushed me over completely to Shapeco side, because out of all the companies that I emailed, only one of them actually emailed me back in a personable way and was like, what do you plan on doing with it? You know, blah, 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 you know, and engaged me in actual conversation. And so it was Shapeco. So that's the reason that kind of pushed me over the limit between listening to my buddy Tip talking about his and looking at some of the updates, because the only complaint that Tip had was that, you know, with some of the older Shapecos, because he had two, was the belts and the rollers had to be, you know, constantly tensioned and cleaned and all that. But you know, talking with him, talking with Steve, you know, with the new ball screws and stuff like that they're putting on the 5, I think a lot of the issues that Shapeco had are going to go away. And I like the look of the machine, the companies, the way they approach business. I like, so that's the route I'm going. I even started to go ahead and order the spindle kit and stick on the 6050, but I'm like, I'll be torn apart with that spindle, because that is a massive spindle to be putting on that 6050. But Steve can tell you more about the Onefinity. I have, like I said, my experience is limited to research and using these machines.
So I've had experience with a number of machines. I had a friend of mine had, I want to say it was maybe even the Shapeco 3. Definitely had the you know, your typical V slot wheels and such and belts. Didn't have any linear rail on it. And it's a good machine for a hobbyist. He did a lot with it, but you know, I'd had similar machines from like open builds and such that had the belts and the wheels in a more, even a hobbyist production environment where you're running them quite often and quite hard. Having to mess with those belts and those rollers getting dirty and wearing out was a bit of a pain. And so when I was looking to, you know, swap out my machine and get a little bit bigger, the Onefinity had come on the scene and had eliminated a lot of my problems. I've been very happy with it. There's a lot of people who are very happy with it. They do have a bit of a lead time on it. It's gotten better and also come back as they release new updates and new machines. So it's not something that you're going to buy now and have, you know, in 2 days like Amazon. I think they have about an 8-week lead time on their machines. So I really like it. It's a very good machine, and I've upgraded it. That's the other thing, is that when possible, they've offered upgrade kits to previous owners to say, okay, now we have the wider woodworker versus the original journeyman. They offered a path where for a lower price I could buy the upgraded equipment, and then they take the parts back and they would refurbish them and get them to maker spaces and such. So you know, it is very nice. They do have a good following online. They are mostly assembled out of Canada and then shipped into the U.S. and other places around the world. So that is appealing to some people. But again, it's really going to depend on what your need is. You know, as a hobbyist, any number of these will probably work just fine as long as it's got the working area and the power. The Onefinity is simple, but you got to build a table for it. It mounts to whatever it's sitting on. It has to hard mount to it. So there is no like, I'm going to set it here and then move it over there. So there's some pros and cons to it, but I'm very happy with the Onefinity. I'm debating upgrading to the new version, the Pro version with the Masso controller and such, more out of curiosity than need. and a few features. The controller is a lot there. The controller on that one is a lot better. Gives you a little more flexibility, a real-time control and changing speeds and feeds and such, and actually has servo motors that will detect when they get out of sync and kind of stop the job and allow you to reset it. So there are some nice features to that, but definitely not needed as a hobbyist. So I don't know if that helps either way, but I think, as a hobbyist, I think you'd enjoy either machine. Reach out to the company like Clack did, see what you feel in talking with them. And, eventually if the price is right and, you're not going to get kicked out of the house for buying it, jump in.
Yeah. Well, and that was somebody else brought up another point. And one other thing that Shapeco kind of had going for them was they are a U.S. company. Now, like we know, most of the parts, they all get them from the same spot, whether they put them together in Canada, the United States, or wherever. But I did like the fact that it had the aluminum bed. So, like where you said with the Onefinity, you have to make sure. Which I built my table to where it would accept a Onefinity or a Shapeco, but you have to have the bed perfect, with the Shapeco or with the Onefinity. Whereas with the Shapeco, because it has the aluminum struts and stuff underneath it, it's a little more forgiving because it has a hard frame that just kind of bolts to the table. But like some of the features that come with the Shapeco, like I said, I liked them, and they really got me with that strip of LED lights across the gantry. That's just awesome. It's the little things, really. But like I said, a lot of just my buddies that I know and I trust that I've talked to, and then like I said, Sam Craft, 731 Woodworks, both of them have had and still have Shapecos. So it's a gamble anytime you're spending that much money on something. But I think all things considered, it's going to do what I need to do until I can justify getting like a sure enough commercial machine or whatever. And I'm looking forward to learning it. And I've already got the software downloaded. I do think that I'm probably going to stick with VCAR for designing because to me, the Shape & Co. software kind of reminds me of XCS as far as the design software. Although it can do some stuff, it doesn't have as many options as VCarve does. So I'm gonna stick with VCarve for my designing, and of course I more than likely will go to their software for sending the file because I know they have the bit setter or whatever that after you change bits it automatically goes over and does a touch off to recalibrate the Z axis between bit changes and stuff. So it's we'll see. If I don't like it, I guess I can save up my money for another couple of years and upgrade maybe. We'll see. Gonna get a Phantom. I don't know what a Phantom is. It must be way expensive.
Earl's asking about the lenses. Are the lenses all the same size? No. Many of the machines use the same size, and they have. I don't have one here right to show easily, but they have. It's about a 16 millimeter outer diameter and a 14 millimeter inner diameter. It's a brass cap, and those are fairly like that. Those are fairly identical on almost all machines. Some of them have a slightly different depth to them. However, Ortour I know has a much smaller lens. I think it's about an 8 millimeter. Sculpt Fun as well has a smaller lens. I'm not sure if it's 8 or 10 millimeter. I don't know about the Lasermatic. You maybe have looked at yours or not, but
I haven't really took it apart to look at it. To be honest with you. I probably
if it's
should.
like the Algo, I think the Algo is the same, and it has a 14 millimeter one. So you really got to take that brass end cap off and measure it to be sure. I've I've had the chance to look at a lot of machines, and I try to validate when I can. But that's the best way to know is that if it has that 14 millimeter inner diameter on that brass cap, then yes, these lenses should work for you. If it's smaller than that, then they're not. And I haven't really found a good way to, when they get into those smaller lens sizes, to make them consistently. So unfortunately, I can't provide them for some of those smaller ones.
See, I'm a little shocked you hadn't got you like a diamond CNC bit or something and started like turning those things out on a CNC.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think it would be possible.
Well, I mean,
But
the thing that's nice about these is, like I say, the majority of manufacturers using the same ones, but then there's kind of the outliers, and then it's a matter of how many, the time to make them and package them and do them differently versus that. So I just haven't found a good mixture for that.
Somebody's asking a question about a controller. Says, does anyone sell a light burn controller to put on a laser that doesn't work with light burn?
Well, so like on, I know like Monport and whatnot, I believe you can buy just the controller for like the K40 series lasers. That's G-code compliant with Lightburn. Outside of that, you can get the Ruida controllers, but now you got to step up to a bigger size, or a bigger, the more expensive license. And I'm not 100% sure that that's going to control a diode laser if that's what you're looking at. So, otherwise, you can just grab a random controller from a G-code laser that is Lightburn compliant and try to hack it back into the frame that you're working with. Like you could take a Sculpt Fun controller and hook it up to an X tool machine, and then through some playing and some troubleshooting, get all the axes coordinated right and dialed in. But that's getting into a lot of playing that you want. So a few different ways to do it, but
Yeah. Well, I got a machine that's dead. I technically could play around with, but I think the controller's the problem with it, though. That's the issue. I considered putting another controller on it.
well,
It's gotten quiet. I think it's map time. Not nap, not nap, but map time.
map.
If you hadn't,
Oh,
yeah, if you hadn't already, guys, check the link on the video for the links to the map as well as to put yourself on the map. And if you're in the state of Nevada, please go put yourself on the map, because right now we have 0 people in Nevada listed on the laser engraver community page map that we created, or Steve created. And he's usually updates that thing during the live, so I don't know if we have today because I don't know how many people's applied, if any. But also, if you hadn't already, like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I promise you, we'll have content. I can't promise you it'll be good content all the time, but we'll have content. And if you subscribe, you'll get notifications of that and so forth. And also, if you're in the Georgia area, the weekend of the 1st, I will be over at that Workbench Con gathering. And I don't know if Steve's going to be able to make it this year or not, but I will be trying to set something up to where if there's some folks over there that want to go out and maybe grab a burger or hang out around the, I would say the pool or the fire or something, but I don't know that I'll have access to either of those. So, go walk the halls of Home Depot or something. We'll try to get something set up while I'm over there, because I know there's a couple people that are from Georgia that have mentioned they wouldn't mind like hanging out for a little while, just talking shop. So may try to set that up. I guess you could call it a meet and greet, but it's not going to be anything formal. It'll just be me probably eating. So,
well, who wouldn't want to join in on that?
hey, if they've got one of those places that feeds you for free, if you could eat the whole burger, I will be trying that while I'm over there. As I've always, everyone I've been to, I successfully ate whatever it was they told me I had to eat, but I usually like take 5 minutes longer than I'm supposed to take or whatever. Uh, but you would think they give you half off if you ate it, but almost
Well,
made the time. But they don't. Still full price.
yeah.
Norbert, around here, uh, the photographers are my friend. Matter of fact, I made a couple for a photographer this week. I do a lot of the big letters for backdrops where they go and they set up the balloon arches and the backdrop and all that, and they'll have the person's name in big wooden letters. That's what one of the jobs that Enclosurzilla is really good at because I can make 30 ish, 32, 33 inch, depending on how I position it, uh, names as far as like the cursive that are interconnected. And my friend of mine that is I guess she's like a party planner, photographer, something like that. She just ordered a couple of names from me this past week to be cut out to use in some decorations for a backdrop. And so, if you've got photographers in the area, let them know what you can do as far as custom stuff like that, because they're going to recoup their money in the photography shoot by offering those. Instead of trying to Photoshop the name on there, it's actually in the photo, and so they're going to recoup that money, and they'll market that for you and sell it to their customers, especially during graduation. Happy birthday! One of the ones I did this past week was a baby announcement, like where they go out and do the reveals or whatever. So it's photographers like that kind of stuff, especially if they know somebody that they can get it from at a reasonable rate. So go check that out. But that's the big thing around graduation here for me is all of the because I don't know if they do it everywhere, but in our area, like during graduation or even at churches, like all the seniors in a church will have a table at the church, and they'll have, you know, the table set up with baby pictures and football pictures of years gone by, and then they'll have their name draped across the front of it. I sell a lot of those signs for senior events, whether it be at churches, whether it be at school, or whether it be photographers. So the big personalized cursive names, uh, that's that's about the bulk of my graduation type stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Is teaming up with photographers there because you could also spin in some, customized picture frame type things that they could use to display some of the photos at their, um, they're having like a graduation party, a reception kind of thing, um,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of it's going to be really around that kind of presentation of memorabilia, um, with tying it in with photography. So. Outside of that, I mean, it's going to get a little more specific. If they're going into something, there might be certain things that they could use, but then you're kind of getting into the what are they doing in college and is this useful or not. So I would stick with that.
Yeah. Somebody was asking about colleges, courses, something. Hang
Have you looked
on.
into college courses on Lightburn?
Yeah, I don't. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, so we do have a few lasers at the community and technical college I work at. Most of them are using like epilogue lasers, and so they're using Corel Draw with the print driver plugin, and so they're not even using Lightburn, even though they're using lasers and such. But so I haven't really seen a lot of college courses around Lightburn, but YouTube and or what are they? There's like some of those online learning portals like LinkedIn Learning and such may or may not have it on there. But honestly, if you can't find it on YouTube between Lightburn itself, places like myself, Clack, uh, Louisiana Hobby Guy, stuff like that, um, it's probably going to be I don't know. That's where I think I've seen the most relevant and up to date information. So
Yeah, that's where I learned that and just getting in there and just getting after it.
yep.
It's always those when you hit those walls when you're trying to do something and you just can't get it to work. That's when you start going. All right, let's go see what Rich says about this, or let's go see what Steve says about this, and figure it out. Da, 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 da. Somebody said something about a mirror. Well, yeah. Hey,
Some ideas for graduation stuff. Yep.
Mirrors are mirrors are cool. Look at my little tiny mirror I did today. Hi. It's a tiny one.
Yeah.
But look, it sits on a shelf, and if it didn't stick in there real good, this one's stuck in there pretty good. Come out of there. Okay, that one was still a little wet with the paint when I put it in there, so it might not come out.
So, unfortunately, I had bought a bulk bundle of mirrors, and instead of having a dark background, it had a white backing on it, and so it's given my dialed light.
Steve. Steve. All right, is it me, guys, or is Steve frozen, or am I frozen? Okay, this is confusing. I don't know if I'm frozen or if he is. Okay, woo, it's not me. Oh. Somebody done stepped on the lag switch over there at Steve's house. He's frozen in time. Hang on, I don't want to embarrass him too much. Let's let's get that pose off the camera for a minute. but uh but no, he got the same mirrors I did. So I was going to tell him that, but these are the exact same mirrors. The only difference is I run through like 4 of them doing test grids. But the good news is I had plenty to choose from. So I still got a whole bunch of them. But yeah, they had this white stuff on the back, and it did make them a lot harder to do. I had to run 3 or 4 through a test grid before I finally found a setting that was acceptable. So they were a little painful getting them done, which I was doing them with a 10 watt, the little cube right there, which is the smallest diode laser I've ever used. And it worked. Let's see, I did this one here because I know somebody around here is going to be wanting that one. So I used to work there, and I know a lot of guys there. So that one's going to go somewhere. But yeah, pretty neat. I thought Steve would come back before we had to get out of here, but somebody may have run over a power pole at his place or something. All right. Somebody said mannequin challenge. Yeah, I thought it was me. Vince, I got them on Amazon, and I've got a video that I didn't release. It should be through processing. I was actually working on it right before the live, so I'll be releasing the video here. Well, I may do it tonight. What the heck? But the link to the mirrors are in the description. But I will tell you, they are tough. Like the coating on them, it's tough. So you've been warned. I mean, they're cheap. There's a bunch of them. So you can afford to test, but it took me 3 different tests to get them done. To get them done right. And I was out of red paint. I did a little Happy Valentine's Day one, but I was out of red, so I had to use orange paint. But they are definitely tough. But the cool thing about it is with my little display thing is you can take them out and put them back. But as you can see, once I engrave them, I put it on the back, different colors. The one that I did with the Gadsden flag, that one was 3 or 4 layers. And so that's why it's kind of stuck in the frame, is because it wasn't completely dry when I put it in here. But this one actually has yellow. I don't know if you can tell it's yellow with the lighting in here's horrible. The snake is actually yellow and black. The text at the bottom is black, and then parts of the snake are black. And I did all of that with that little guy. It wasn't fast, but it was effective. So everybody had asked me, everybody's been asking me about doing smaller mirrors because people that have the F1 or have different machines that don't have the big enough work area, and so I did these just basically for the F1 people out there that want to do a project. That frame file, if you've got 120 by 120 millimeter work area, you can actually cut that out and make that file. Now you'll have to do it in three pieces because you've got the way that it works. Hey, there comes Steve. There he comes. He's coming back, guys. But the way it works, the way the frame works, you got the back part, and then you got this little piece here, which is opened at the top that allows the mirror to be slid in from the top, which this is actually supposed to be this way. So that piece is open. It allows the mirror to be slid in through here. And then the front piece is basically just trim to kind of hide the edge. And you can make this opening as smaller if you wanted to by resizing this, letting it shrink down or widen if you needed room to engrave here. And then of course the little kickstand, which just basically notches into the back right there. So, all right, we were just talking about mirrors. I had to hide you. You froze like that. So, so I had to hide you for a minute. It was embarrassing. These are the backing is that wavy white crap that Steve was talking about. It's got a texture to it. It's white and it's got a texture. So it took me 3 or 4 mirrors and playing with everything from the LPI, speed, focus, everything to finally find a setting that I liked. It took a while. The first couple I did, it was a no go, but it took a while. But I got it working.
Okay,
So what
now
happened,
I
Steve?
think it just Streamlabs locked up, and then everything else locked up, and everything
Ugh.
was trying to go to bed early on me. I guess. I think you were yawning too much.
Yeah. See, here's all my test grids. I got test grids on top of test grids on top of test grids, and finally got a setting that I could live with. So, but yeah. Chris said YouTube picks the most embarrassing positions to freeze you in. Yeah, I was like, is it Steve or is it me? And then all of a sudden, everybody was like, it's Steve, it's Steve, it's Steve, it's Steve. I was like, thank God.
Yeah, it happens. Got to love technology. But so you got the same pack of mirrors I did, and been mucking with it too, huh?
Yeah, it took a lot with a 10 watt to get through those things. Oh,
I was actually playing with the X2 F1, and I was actually playing around with doing it with the blue diode first, and then a cleanup pass with the IR to see if that would make any difference on smoothing out some of those chunkier white spots. And you don't want to do that in reverse because then the IR just blasts away the material and leaves clear glass, which I guess would be an effect. But yeah.
yeah, clear glass is what you want if you're back painting them.
Well, I mean, yeah, sometimes you want that frosted look too, though.
I like it. The clearer the better when you're painting them. But see,
Yeah.
hey, and I even look at this. Woo! I even got a little jig kit for the iCube now. Oh, it was fun. It was fun. Like I said, I when they asked me to try that little machine out, I was like, no. But I like Sculpt Fun, so I did it, and it turned out okay. After a little work. All right. Somebody asked, "Is that an otter hanging behind you?" I'm guessing he's talking about the airplane.
No, that's a beaver. The Haviland beaver over there.
Yeah, because see, when you first froze up, I was like, "What do they think is an otter?" And I'm looking for a furry animal everywhere, and I didn't see anything. And I was like, "Okay," but then I thought about it. I'm like, "I bet that's an airplane."
Yeah, no, actually, this spring I should have an otter in my fleet of airplanes. This one
Somebody was.
This one was actually it was a cover model for Fly RC magazine when I did the review on that one. So
Says we got a couple more questions that Steve had to take a sabbatical for a minute. Could you use your screen printer for the multicolored mirrors? Make a jig for the screen printer. No, it with the mirrors. Basically, you put it on there. You have a layered burn. You burn the opening for the first color, paint it, put it back on there, burn the openings for the second color, paint it, and it's repeat and rinse, repeat and rinse, repeat and rinse. As many colors as you want. But now each time you paint them, the paint gets a little thicker. So sometimes you have to tweak your settings. Like with the one where I did 3 different coats of paint, there toward the end, I was getting a little bit of leave of the paint on the glass. And so I actually ran that one 2 passes to get it cleaned off well enough to where the green would show up, because green's not a color that shows up real well through mirrors. But it's the secret to doing those mirrors is you have to make sure when you put that thing back in there, if you're doing multi layers, it has to be in the same spot, or you're going to have a little bit of off in your design. So, but yeah, it's the mirrors. There's no need of, like I said, it's spray paint, rattle can. That's all you got to have. It's like making a stencil and spray painting it. But anyway, I guess that's about it, guys. It's been 2 hours and 6 minutes.
yeah, well, shorter for me because I took my little break.
Yeah, Steve, he was just like,
Yeah.
that was funny though. I should have
But,
screenshot it. I can go back and watch it in the replay.
yeah, oh, that'll be great.
All right, guys. So, any last questions? Last call. You ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Who are we kidding? You're already at home. But yeah, what's to come at the Steve's workshop, Ventari's workshop in the coming up week? You got anything
Oh,
awesome coming out or what?
I hope I actually get some time out here. I apologize. The videos I've been working on have not come out. Life has gotten in the way. Let's see. Maybe you can see it. This is the Atom Stack A24 enclosure. And
Your enclosure
so
looks different than mine.
I got that. Okay. Well, that's what came in the box. I got that built and on the laser, so I'll be playing with that. And here, okay, yours just still in cardboard. So we'll be playing with that one a little bit. And then I also have well, let me grab it quick. I have this, which is an all acrylic enclosure that probably would fit right over this one.
It looks massive.
There we go. Yeah. So yeah, that's an all acrylic enclosure. That's it's held together by some metal brackets and some hinges. It's from a company called Great Carve. They had reached out saying they'd have this enclosure that they were looking for some feedback and maybe a video on. And I thought, we've done a lot with some of those more fabric style ones. And of course, there's our custom build ones. So I thought it'd be kind of nice to look at one of these all acrylic ones. And so I'm hopefully going to get something out on that as well. But definitely then jumping back into some of the machines with some projects and such that have been a little put on hold. Just life is January was always a ride for me. I usually just kind of hang on and try to get through it.
Yeah.
So we're here at the end of January, and hopefully I'll get back on my schedule where I got more time out here to do some of those things.
Cool. Well, I'm going to hopefully get some stove covers caught up this week, and if everything works out, I do plan to unbox that cover for the A24. But we'll see. They took their time getting it to me. They got it to me like right after I got a bunch of other stuff that I'm having to go through. So I'll get it when I get it. But hopefully, I do want to see what the machine looks like. I can basically see it on yours, but I want to see it go together. It looks like it'll be a decent little build. So
yeah, it bolts right to the machine, and so it's all part of it. It has the camera on top. It's got a fan on back, so it looks kind of nice. Unfortunately, the honeycomb is still separate and loose, and the bottom is open. So, is what it
Yeah.
is. But it's definitely a nice improvement over, just the fabric, whatever enclosures, and this will give it's got lights along the sides as well that shine in. So it's a
Oh,
nice little add-on for it.
fancy.
Mhm.
Fancy. All right, well, that's about it, guys. I just dropped that video that I did. If anybody wants to check out the little mirrors, or if you've never seen any of my mirrors, like I said, the whole process for doing them is not in the video, but you can just search my content for the word mirror. And I do have a video where I go into a little more in depth. It's pretty simple. Spray paint, repeat. But until next time, guys, y'all be safe and have a good day.
And I'm dropping one link in there for Colorado's asking where to find the acrylic. And so JTech Photonics, actually, I don't think I got the whole thing in there. JTech Photonics has the laser safe acrylic for diodes that you can use if you want to make something custom yourself. So I'll try to get that in there this time.
Yeah.
There you go. And it's great seeing everyone here tonight. We'll be back at it it'll be February next time we're here. So
Yes, it will. February.
1 month
First
down to
weekend of February.
2024.
All right. Yeah, 19 more months till retirement. See you guys.